what I'm getting to is America may not be that extreme yet, but it's starting like this, keeping the people stupid and fed. Here's your money, because we're going to do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The people in this country, they need to realize that truth, and then just the freedom to speak, whether you're correct or incorrect, whether it's truthful or not truthful.
Or if it's offensive. The whole idea of the First Amendment and freedom of speech is to protect offensive speech. You don't need to protect, I can stand up and say, I love cheese and pepperoni pizza. That's not going to offend, well, it might offend a vegan or something, but it's not, it's not an overtly offensive thing.
Right.
It's not anything somebody would try to stop. People try to stop speech that goes against government or goes against the powers that be, or speech that is contrary in any way, and that's the speech that needs to be protected.
Right.
And that's what people miss. They think, you don't have a right to offend me. No, I have a right to speak, and if you're offended,
You have the right to not listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Turn the channel.
Actually, this situation in Burma or Myanmar or whatever started because of supposed election fraud, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, you should read up on it. It's actually very interesting.
I should. Well, we've got a missionary there. I should know what's going on, right?
That's caught my attention, but anyway.
Let's close by talking about the media's effects in the lives of our children. If you are anything like me and you got young kids, chances are they like watching YouTube channels. There are, like 29,000 YouTube channels out there?
Wow.
Well, it's probably more than that.
I think it's like
29,000.
Or maybe 29 million.
Yeah, I was
29 million.
I mean, there's probably 29,000 for just
29. I think
video
it's
games.
I heard some number.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say it's 50 million. I don't know. I mean, you think about it, growing up, I had channel 2, 4, and 7.
Right. Yeah. No.
And that was enough, and then eventually 29, which is Fox, came in to play. And that was enough to control thought.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I got millions of channels now, well, I don't know what the kids are watching out there. Do you always know what they're watching?
We are pretty strict with that.
We're careful about what they watch.
I see what Gabriel, he's usually the one watching. I see because there's a history, and I'll check my history.
Yeah.
My YouTube history, his will come up because he's using my account.
Yeah, same here. We use the same account.
So that I can watch and see what, and I mean, mainly they're watching these kids, these gamers.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
Watch other people play games when they have the games and could play the games themselves.
So stupid.
Go outside.
I have offered my little Johanna, she's 7 now? I don't know my own kid's ages, 6 or 7. She's 7, or turning 7. And she's watching a little girl on YouTube play with dolls. And I'm saying, Hannah, you have dolls. And I said, Daddy will go play dolls with you. Would you like to go play dolls? We'll have a tea party.
Interesting to note there, Joe.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's part of being a man. That's part of being a father,
Tea party?
Yeah. Hey, absolutely. That's
I
a
only
good
have
band.
boys, so we'll do a Boston tea party.
There you go.
I like the tea party back in the day. Did you like that?
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Not really.
Anyhow, I'm like, would you like to go play with your dolls? No. You'd rather watch a child play with dolls than play with the dolls. Though I watch hunting videos.
I was just going to say this.
But I'd rather go hunting.
To be fair, YouTube, and I'll give a shout out to YouTube, I guess, have saved me thousands of dollars in home projects of calling this guy or that person.
That's got a purpose. It's not mindless.
That's got a purpose. I
totally call Minecraft mindless crap, and I'm like, oh, you're watching mindless crap again. That's the thing, is it's at least in even the hunting videos, okay, at least there's some action, some activity. It's something I can kind of learn some things from, and it's something that I'd still rather go out and do it. Sometimes I might watch off-roading, like trucks or something like that. So I get it that it's similar, but I don't know. Watching somebody play a video game or play with their dolls is kind of...
They're only allowed to watch YouTube in the living room. So it's on the screen.
Yeah, they have to be...
Families around, and honestly, they actually don't go on YouTube that much without our permission. That's just my household, but
What
He's also
happens
younger.
when they learn the things about computers that we know? About history?
They can erase it.
How to change
Sure,
it?
Yeah, I mean, James is kind of, he knows his computer. Him and Marcus and
I mean, Gabriel didn't even know that I could see what he was watching.
I've
He had
never
no
been
idea.
a computer guy, so
I'd be
Joshua,
like, what's
I think,
this video?
already knows more than I do about it.
Well, see, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And they will. The young mind will keep up on the technology. We'll lose it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, at some point in time, we got to concede they're going to move on with technology if the Lord tarries, and they're going to move on without us. And they're going to be responsible for that which they do.
Yeah.
And right now we can only lay a foundation. Like, I'll ask the kids, you watch, okay, this game or whatever, Idiot Boy 10. Okay. Does he cuss?
Right.
Well, a little bit.
Oh.
So he does he?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I go, they'll be like, that doesn't bother you? Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they got to do that. I said, yeah. And you're probably thinking right away, well, why didn't you just say, well, you can't watch that anymore? Well, I can turn channel 2 on and they're going to hear cussing.
Right.
Sure.
So it's not a matter of, well, what are they going to hear? It's a matter of, well, what do you think of that language?
Right, yeah. Where's your
It's
heart
good
at?
to have a conversation on it.
Does
And
that
they'd be
bother
like,
you?
okay, well, so there's, right, and because there are certain words that, I got to be honest with you, in Christian circles, they would think, you use those words? I'm like,
Yeah, right.
It's a word. I don't have the same...
Yeah, the words don't bother me. What bothers me
The
is
intent behind the
using
words.
God's name as a cuss. That's what bothers
Oh,
me.
of course. I mean,
It
those...
can also
but-
be in the delivery of the word. We've talked about this, like how you say it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that could be even more offensive with that word, but whatever. Words are words.
As I'm pulling down my microphone again, I
Yeah,
give
the
up on this.
technology.
Right, I'll hold it like this.
Yeah.
And apparently use that camera because this one ain't working.
It's important for parents to be at least a little bit up on the technology and pay attention
for
to what their kids
sure.
are doing. I mean, like hey, hit the pound sign, and you mean the hashtag? The what tag? The pound sign. I mean, I'm still.
Oh, sure.
But that you bring up a question. I'm always afraid of restricting too much to
I
the
know
extent
what
that
you're
they'll
saying.
rebel and go away the other way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's a matter of, and you got to set that standard for your own home, right?
Yeah.
And in good conscience with God, because whatsoever is not of faith is sin.
Yes. Very
And
good.
you have to use it. I know this is probably an overused phrase, but a teachable moment. Where
Yeah.
you can sit them down and go, okay, listen, I can't for the rest of my life shield you from hearing words that I would prefer you not to hear, and I certainly don't want to hear you using.
Right.
So you are at some point in time going to have to hear those words and not have them get stuck in your heart so that they start coming out of your mouth.
Example, we watched The Big Country with Gregory Peck. It's a 50s movie, actually. And it's got Charlton Heston and, of course, Gregory
Okay,
Peck.
well, it's already good. It's got Charlton Heston.
And
He was Moses.
yeah.
It can't be wrong. He was Moses.
Gregory Peck, it's a great movie if you want to teach your kids about true masculinity.
Oh, is
what
that
a
right?
true man is.
Because Gregory Peck?
Because Gregory Peck, yeah.
nice
Now,
pecs.
Charlton Heston is too, but in the movie, but he's a good example. It's not all about being a tough guy. Because Charlton Heston character, he's a tough guy, but he's unwise, and he doesn't have the self-control that he ought to have, like Gregory Peck. He's more prideful. Gregory Peck is humble. Gregory Peck's character doesn't have to prove it. His name's Jim. He doesn't have to prove himself in front of others, and things like that. But there are some scenes in that movie. I mean, there's a scene where this group of guys, the Hennessy family, they're drunk. And they, start messing around and doing some things. And maybe some people would be able to say, oh, you shouldn't let your kids see these drunk guys. Well, my son Josiah said, they're acting like idiots, There's another scene where, and again, we're careful about not letting the kids watch kissing. And if a couple's not married, they shouldn't kiss.
Right.
There's a scene in there where one of the men, I use that term loosely, tries to start forcing himself on a woman, and
that's a very teachable moment.
That's very teachable.
Especially
you know what I did?
light of today's.
I looked at my boys one at a time. I looked at them and said, "You ever treat a woman like that?
Right.
I'll kill you." Then I looked at the other one and said, and they started to laugh, and I didn't laugh.
Sorry.
I said, "You ever treat a woman like that? I'll kill you." Yeah. And they're kind of like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not kidding. I don't ever want to hear that. You know what I mean? And that was a way for a father to show, I will be greatly ashamed if you ever abuse a woman. That's not how we act.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a good way to instill that. Now, I don't want him to see that sort of thing, so I did, you know, it's like, okay, if that scene's about to come on, okay, cover your eyes, but you know what's going on there. That was a teachable moment to say, that is not what we do.
Yeah.
You know,
so talking about media, though, brother, I mean, the thing that weirds me out a little bit with YouTube is like, okay, if our kids could just go on there, there's stuff that just comes up on the scroll bar over there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Other things, you go down this rabbit hole, and then before you know it, it's like, yeah, they were looking at gamers, but now they're looking at something, you're like, where did this come from?
Right, because there's a progression.
Yeah, and like, and it tags
it always
things.
goes downward, too.
It does. More interesting, more exciting to the world, I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the stuff, that's why it's like, no, if you're going to watch your gamer or whatever, you're doing that in the living room while mom and dad are making dinner or something, we're here, and it's but there's going to come that time, no, your kids are a little older, but that trust factor, it's on them and their heart.
And who they're talking to. I mean, some of these games, like I felt guilty because I said, you know, parents should know what's going on, is sometimes I didn't realize they were actually communicating with people.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of predators online.
I'm very
they'll
different
pose
about
as a 10-year-old,
but
they're 50.
Right.
You know, and they're trying to get information, you know, maybe where you live, or, what do you look like? You know, that kind of, and it's like, you know, so you got to be careful.
Easy to get suckered in there for kids, too, because they think they've got a friend. So I guess the point being is that we can't deny media is shaping our children.
Amen.
Now, how much we allow is how much we're allowing them to be shaped.
Right.
And it can be the innocent YouTube star. YouTube star.
Yeah, right.
Again, idiot boy 10 or whatever.
My son
they always have these monikers that are stupid.
We have these moments of shame and discouragement when we're parents, and my son said something, my younger son said, I want to be like Preston or whatever.
I know Preston.
And I was like, oh.
Right.
I said, when I was your age, I wanted to be like Clint Eastwood. I mean, now granted, he's not a great example. He's not a great example for a lot of reasons, but in some ways he is.
But I know what you're saying.
But I'm saying, like, I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be like Charlton Heston, Moses, you know.
It's a little effeminate guys, and Preston's very effeminate.
He is, and I'm like, is that becoming of a man? Is that what you want to be when you become a man? Like when you grow up, you want to be like this kid that he's 24 and he acts like a 15-year-old?
Okay, but here's the reality. It
drives me nuts.
Yeah, but Joe, here's the reality. Yes, they do.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's sad.
And your dad probably thought the same thing of you with whatever you were looking at, and thought
he didn't mind that I wanted to be like Clint Eastwood and Pale Rider and beat some nasty dudes with a piece of hickory. That was a good aspiration to my dad.
Beat somebody with a piece of hickory. That's
well, he was defending somebody, so that's okay.
Well, I think
context.
But generationally, things
that is
change.
true, because I also looked up to singers of bands and things like that were no good.
Right.
But, so I understand.
So either way, whether it's a YouTube star that's controlling us, or let's be honest now, outside of media, you send them off to school. I mean, our kids are homeschooled, and we'll talk about that in another podcast. But eventually, if they want to go to either a trade school or a college, to be able to get a degree and get a good job, which you need at this point, unfortunately. Trade school, I think, more so. But
I would agree. Yes. Go to trade school.
But I think what the college professors do is more malicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the things that they implant in those kids...
The education program.
True, and then you're not there to counter that and say, that ain't right. I'm proud of my son Joshua, though, because we were watching, and again, this I'm sure it'll offend some people, we were watching Star Wars, and the one scene...
Cut
that. The ones, I'm not that into it, but I was watching it with them. But again, teachable moments, and my kids know better. So we're watching this, and the one scene, what's his name?
Darth Vader?
No, the good guy.
Skywalker.
Luke. Luke was told to follow his heart or listen to his heart, and Joshua was like,
Yeah.
So he knows. It's
Search
like
your
that.
feelings.
Right? Yeah, it's something
Search
like
your
that. And he's like,
feelings,
no.
Yeah.
And talk about the Force. He looks at me and goes, that's weird.
Yeah.
Right.
So he knows better.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up as well too, because I saw, you guys ever heard of Caitlin Bennett?
Yes.
Okay. She she's kind of maybe a little annoying. She goes campus to campus. She knows she's going to cause trouble, but she's got a YouTube channel and she has the right to do it. But she triggers a lot of people.
She does it on purpose.
Just her presence. Yeah, she does for sure. But I watched a video. I thought they were going to kill her. This was in Ohio.
You remember, she's pretty young still, though. She's got a lot to learn, and I'm sure she'll temper some of that.
Crowder does.
She had well, it didn't matter. She showed up. She was instantly surrounded. She had to have a guy. She had like a bodyguard that was like 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Her bodyguards. I didn't see that.
He picked her up and carried her out of the crowd because it was getting bad.
I didn't see that.
They thought. It was violent. It got to as they're driving away, everyone's throwing drinks at them, and it just was like
how tolerant of them.
Right. It was so horrible. How did we get to? And I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is how did we get to that place in society where these kids so dislike an opposite thought or an opposite speech that they're willing to be violent against it.
They view speech as violence.
Yeah.
So it's justified to be violent against them.
So I don't get it. So who's responsible for actions then? It seems like they're putting it on the speaker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I said something to you and I called you a dog-faced pony soldier like the president. I don't even know what that means, but let's say I did.
You're a dog-faced
He
pony
doesn't know what
soldier.
it means either, probably. Poor guy.
And that offended you and you popped me one?
I would just laugh.
You're going to jail.
Right, yeah.
Right.
At least legally, the way things stand now, I can say pretty much anything I want to you.
Yep.
You strike me, that's assault.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
starting to change in America where now they're going to be, and I'm waiting for that first court case where that person can win a case saying, I was triggered by the things that they said.
It's common. Because you said the word triggered.
It triggered violence.
Yeah.
And therefore, they were the ones that committed the violent act, not me.
Right.
I defended
Even though
myself.
they cry about victim blaming.
But they could do it. They could get away with it in court because they're going to, like how murderers get off because they're, bipolar or whatever.
Speaking of-
but people could use that as an excuse. Like, I get triggered by that. But how do I know that triggers you? So it's just, they're going to use it. It's going to happen.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're never really going to know. Society's going to get to a place of where we're all talking like we have to talk to YouTube.
Right.
Can I say that? Changing words
HR.
out, just
robots.
Okay, so speaking of words causing violence, when is the left going to be held accountable? Since the right, they want to hold the right accountable for inciting violence, even when we're not inciting violence. When is the left going to be held accountable? Because, there's a lot of anti-white rhetoric. That could be a whole podcast in and of itself. There's a ton of anti-white rhetoric out there, including when this latest shooter in Colorado, they said, always a white man, always a white man. Turns out he's Syrian.
right.
Yeah.
And he's Muslim.
They saw a picture. He was apparently light-skinned.
Yeah.
So from a helicopter or
But
whatever, and they assumed he's white.
I have this story here, probably very little coverage about it. At a McDonald's in Pittsburgh, a man stabbed a 12-year-old boy in the neck, screaming racist names as an anti-white hate crime. Charles Edward Turner, 51, attacked the 12-year-old boy, and it said that he was calling him a white devil. See, when there's rhetoric like that, and then when you hear rhetoric like punch a Nazi, which, okay, a real Nazi maybe, but when everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi,
Or anyone that voted for Trump.
or anyone who voted for Trump is a Nazi. I saw the video of the shooting in, was it Portland, where a man yelled out, hey, there's one over here, there's a MAGA over here, a Trump supporter over here, and then all of a sudden you hear shots rang out, and the guy got shot because he had a MAGA hat on or something.
That's it.
Trump supporter. When is the left going to be held accountable for their triggering speech?
Well, when society dictates it, and I suspect it is, and I think that even some members of what we would refer to as left that are more moderate in their thinking even question where are we going with this.
I think sometimes, I think there are people, in fact, I know there are people on the left that have said, hey, we didn't sign up for this.
Right. Well, the more
this is going too far.
The worse it gets, I think the more of the moderate left will get on our side.
You know, and you know him, John, I'm not going to give his whole name, but a guy that we've gone back and forth before on Faceplant. He actually seems a little more balanced these days, and sometimes we agree on some things. And one of the things he said to me, because I was talking about some of this anti-white rhetoric going on, and he said, you guys got to do something about that. Because he kind of agreed, like, yeah it's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty open and blunt and bad. And he's like, y'all got to do something about that. It's getting brutal.
What if I could?
I was like, dude, I can't believe you and I are like kind of agreeing on this subject.
What can I do?
Well, the power of the media, just one point. We've joked about this. We said, hey, what if everybody from the church got up, went to Walmart, walked in with a mask on, and just ripped it off? What would happen? And what I said, and I kind of have a backstory with this. What I said is, I don't think the workers or the management team at Walmart would say anything to us. Because people in Wegmans, they won't say anything.
I think a lot of people don't care.
The customers in there would get us out of there and push us out of there.
I think there's a majority of people who don't care about the mask stuff, and they're like, "This is so stupid."
I don't know,
but I
Joe.
think there are the ones who you see riding their bike with the mask on, the ones that you see driving by themselves with the mask. Those are the ones that even if Dr. Falsey said, "Hey guys, you don't have to wear the mask anymore," would say, "No, I want I want my blankie."
Well, because it's
then
let
them. So let them, but don't restrict our rights.
Right. But my neighbor said to me the other day, how many people need to go on TV and YouTube and just say, yeah, the mask, and like supporting it. And I'm like, well, there you go. There's so many people, their number one source is the media.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's their life source for all of this information.
I still want to get one that says placebo on it.
Yeah. They think as they're told
That's it.
to think without critical thinking.
So that's why I think if we did that situation, not saying we would do that,
no.
but you'd walk in there, well,
I would do it.
Some of us might. But what I'm saying is you do that, the workers would not, the associates would not kick you out. The customer shopping there.
What about instead of just ripping them off, we just mock it? We just make like a paper one. Just take a sheet of paper and cut out ear holes and just have a piece of paper that's obviously not doing squat.
Because
just mock it.
But I don't think mocking it is the answer.
Yeah, just not doing
I think resisting it is the answer.
Yeah. Right.
And doing it, and like I say, you go into a Walmart and you do it with a whole bunch and you buy something. You don't just go in there to cause trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone buy something.
And I saw a protest down in Florida that I think was handled the wrong way. They went in and they were marching and they were shouting, "Take off the mask, take off the mask." I think a silent, peaceful, not that it wasn't peaceful, but I think a more silent approach would probably be better.
Right. A whole bunch of people walk in.
And not yelling at other people about wearing it.
Everyone take the mask off, put it in your pocket, and then everyone split up and go buy something you want to go buy, and then we'll meet you outside. And don't say anything. Don't sit there, just and see what happens.
Yeah.
I've seen businesses, and I won't name them, but I've seen businesses that have the sign that says, according to New York State, we're supposed to require a mask, but then they have this thing, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you are exempt from this, you don't have to wear one, and based on HIPAA law, I'm not allowed to ask you. So they're basically saying we're not going to, make you wear one.
That's the
I think
real law.
More businesses
They're saying we don't agree with it?
Yeah.
So we're giving you a way out.
Yeah.
But we have to tell you we recommend you wear one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we're finally done, at least for now, with dealing with the media. We really got to watch our kids and make sure that they're protected. And again, we can't completely, they'd have to go out of the world, like Paul said, right? You're going to be dealing with this. So we've got to teach them how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Instead of just sheltering, we got to teach them how to cope, some coping mechanisms with this world and the things of this world and the media of this world. And just turn the clicker off every so often, pick up a Bible.
There you go.
More often than not, pick up your Bible.
As a family.
Get some truth, and don't worry about what the news media says. Don't worry about appeasing the powers that be or being like the Joneses, the next door neighbors, or what everyone else wants you to be. It's okay to stand out. It's okay to be different. Jesus stood out. He was different. And I want to be like him.
Yep.
Amen.
All right, so that was the Bible Believers podcast. We'll see you next time.